So my name is Jordyn Galvan. I'm from Dallas, Texas, and I am a junior at Texas State University, and I represent the Mescon Apache tribe. I definitely did not get the opportunity to grow up on the reservation with my immediate culture right there in front of me, but I got to have the opportunity to witness the amazing side of Indigenous people in Texas that a lot of people aren't aware of. Texas is a really interesting spot because there's a lot of diversity in terms of political ideology, but as well as your backgrounds and your cultures and whatnot. So specifically being from Dallas, there's a lot of different groups and different cultures. And so when you grow up in such a diverse area, you learn so much about yourself, but you also learn so much about the world around you, which I would say definitely impacted the way that I lived growing up in Texas. I spent a lot of my time doing a lot of schoolwork and whatnot as a junior at Texas State. But I also do a lot of advocacy work with STAN, which is the Student-Led Movement to End Mass Atrocities. And in that organization, I'm the co-policy and communications lead. And then I also work with a lot of local organizations over here in Texas regarding Indigenous activism, environmental activism, and things of that nature. So for example, there's the Indigenous Cultures Institute over here at Texas State. And they work with the Native American Student Association, which we recently founded a few years ago. And so in that organization, we bring forward a lot of community for students that attend this university, but also community for students just in the area in general. And through that, we can really build a strong community, but also find ways to allow people to find roots back to their culture. A lot of people, especially in Texas, who are Indigenous, don't know exactly where their roots lie or how to get involved in their own culture. And through this sort of organization, through the Native American Student Association and through the Indigenous Cultures Institute, it allows students to find that reconnection back to their roots and back to their, ties into their culture.
On June 7, 2017, Ashley Loring Heavy Runner vanished from the Blackfeet Reservation in Glacier County, Montana. She was 20 years old. Her disappearance wasn't covered by most major media outlets. Over the past century, thousands of Indigenous women and girls in the United States and Canada have gone missing, in life, in the media, and in the data.
Missing and murdered Indigenous women, or you'll often see it referred to as MMIW, is related to the epidemic that is being brought forward and faced in the Indigenous community, specifically for Native women. And it is the act of the violence that is brought onto Indigenous women in particular, as well as trafficking and just unheard and unjustified cases of murder, domestic violence, sexual violence, whatever it may be, high levels of violence. Indigenous women are 3 times more likely to experience violence and danger in their lives. In these instances, when family members go to, law enforcement, when individuals go to law enforcement, they're often not really met with the same levels of treatment, the same level of investigation, the same level of justice, or any searching that any other community counterpart might. If it's not going to be listened to, if it's not going to be heard, if it's not going to be brought justice towards, it's only going to continue to get worse. And these are women that are constantly facing violence and trafficking and almost every day. There's a woman going missing every day. And so when I look at the concerns of this and I see just how destructive it is to not only who a human being is, but who that community is, and the way that it relates to just, every single person that's involved in your life. I really believe that that's probably one of our biggest and most pressing issues right now. Unless we really get actions brought forward, not just from tribal governments, not just from, the public eye, but from federal government as well, we're not going to be able to see the changes that need to be brought forward to protect those women and to bring forward the change that is necessary, that impacts the life of everyone, on the high scale to even the smallest. It's really scary when you're growing up and you're a young girl. You have to have conversations with your family members that no young person should have to have, and saying that when you go out, when you go places, when you go do things, you specifically have to be far more careful unfortunately, than some of the other people that you will meet in your life. My mom would always tell me, I will go to the ends of the earth to search for you, to do anything for you, right? To take care of you. But there is the reality that you need to be aware of. And it's that we live in a world where people can be treated differently based on the color of their skin, based on the way that they look, based on the community that they're from. When you hear that as a young child, you kind of become fearful of the world. We need to create a safe space to talk about those issues. A safe space where you can have friendship and you can have family members and you can have support in what you've gone through. That's the primary thing. Because we need to look at this not as a victim-centered issue, but a survivor issue, right? You're still you, and no one can take that away from you. And in addressing and owning and, taking your time to develop and discuss what you've been through, that takes time, right? And it takes support. The point of this movement, the point of getting involved in this and speaking up about it is to really bring everyone together and to come together and talk about your experiences and talk about your ideas and talk about what's really going on and how it's important for us to not only support our community as a whole, but young women in that community. And so it's empowering women. It's bringing women together. It's making sure women feel safe. It's changing the narrative of you need to be careful to you should be safe. And that's the main point. That's the really heart of what this movement is. It's bringing justice, but also safety to that community, but specifically to the Indigenous women within that community. Bringing up this topic and not, straying away from the truth behind it is important. And so whether it be any day I'm sitting out and having a conversation with a classmate or a community member or the specific Indigenous people within my, certain area, this is a conversation that's brought forward because it should be something that we talk about often. It should be something that we discuss often. A lot of the people who are affected by these issues are young individuals, young women. And so it's standing up for one another. It's, calling your representatives because there are a few pieces of legislation out there, right? And so if we can get, the federal government and leaders to really bring forth awareness to this issue and to really recognize the necessary needs behind it, that's a really good way that people are getting involved. And I, seen young people really get involved on social media on, finding new ways to talk about it, whether it be through a TikTok video, Instagram, or having a conversation in person, right? The fact that we're talking about it, the fact that youth are getting involved in it within of itself is such a huge triumph. Youth and young people are the bridge between the future and the past, right? Because we're the present. And we're able to learn and we're able to grow and we're able to find the connections between what worked and what didn't work and what we can bring forward out of that, right? And young people are like sponges. We absorb everything. We learn everything. We see everything in the current moment. And we have fresh new ideas and we have new perspectives. And when we are finally heard, you can learn a lot from young people. I think this generation specifically sees the importance of an international and global connection to one another. We value our differences, but we also value the ways that we're similar. The YPS Act really brings forward young people's voices, and it allows for those communities, whether it be one community, 3 communities, or all communities together, you're able to bring forward a more holistic view as to how to bring about change. Because not only were we looking at it from those previous perspectives, but we're looking at it from our current moment. I think youth will be the runners in making change, not only for now, but for the future.